You're listening to the Known Legacy Podcast, brought to you by Known Legacy Ministries. For more information, go to knownlegacy.org. Now here's your hosts, Bill and Travis.
Bacon or brisket?
Yes.
So I've been
To both.
thinking about this. So I'm trying to watch what I eat. And, moving. I'm trying to watch what I eat.
Yeah.
And it's so beef itself is a little more like fattening, I guess, or something. So I'm eating like a ton of chicken right now.
Right.
But today I was driving in, and I passed by someplace that was doing breakfast tacos.
Right.
And all I could think about was that juicy, amazing brisket. But then but my problem was also that bacon. And I struggled. And so I need your guys' wisdom. What would you, if you had to choose one,
No.
what would you do, bacon or brisket?
That is the rudest, horrible, worst question ever. Because it's like if you had to choose your mom or your wife, which one would you choose, right? Like if you had to kill one. And I'm like, no, I would not do either one. I would do both. I would take the brisket, I'd wrap it in bacon, and then put more brisket on top, and then I would consume that. So I'm not making the choice. Both are valid, and thank you to Jesus, we can eat bacon, and I honor him every time I eat bacon on a regular basis.
Crispy bacon or like
It's gotta
rubbery?
be crispy. No. Crispy bacon, like chicken wrapped in bacon, chicken wrapped in beef, all of it.
Water chestnut. No one would know what a water chestnut is if it wasn't for bacon.
Dude, I'm telling you, that water chestnut, soaked in like soy and then sugared and then bacon on top, a Christmas delight.
Jim Gaffigan texts me like, thank you, bacon. Sincerely, water chestnut the third.
I feel like if Jim Gaffigan didn't live in New York and he lived in the South, it would be brisket.
He'd probably be dead from a heart attack at this point.
He would, like all of us. So.
Kyle, what about you?
Well, don't send in hate mail, but I'm going to go against it. I'm not a bacon guy.
Really?
Nope.
You're not a bacon guy.
I'll eat if it comes on my Rudy Tooty Fresh and Fruity and it's on the side, I'll eat it.
Oh, I remember the Rudy Tooty Fresh and Fruity.
But I never order it, and absolutely hands down brisket all the way for me.
So you're listening to Known Legacy Podcast. We currently have an opening in our production staff.
We do.
And just came available. If you'd like to, info@knownlegacy.org. Please submit your applications, and we'd be more than happy. And the first question is, do you like bacon?
Do you like bacon?
And everything else is secondary to
It's all
that.
secondary.
I like the sausage now. I'll eat the sausage.
Oh, yeah.
But
That's not even on a plate. Like
I know,
proverbially
I know.
and preferably.
Preferably.
You guys know what I mean. And whatever that word is, but I'm talking bacon because it was a very hard choice for me. And I think if I had to throw it on there, I would go with brisket.
I think this diet is messing with you.
But it is. But what I would say is that I didn't like brisket for so long because remember when I cooked that first one?
Yeah, it was horrible.
And it was like I cooked it for like 14 hours at 350, and I'm like, oh, I didn't know I was making shoe leather. So I didn't realize I was cooking feet in there. And so anyways, but
Dude,
no.
One of the hilarious... So I belong to a multitude of Facebook barbecue groups, and every once in a while someone will post their first brisket they've ever done,
Oh, yeah.
and it always looks horrible. And they're so proud of this brisket, and the comments that come in are just hilarious and brilliant.
beat-downs.
Oh, yeah, absolute
Beat-downs.
beat-downs. And then you'll get the one encouragement. Try again. You got it the second time. It's always better the second time.
It's like I remember my first time cooking too.
It's horrible.
Oh, it was so crazy. Hey, well, guys, thanks for listening. You can check us out, info@Known Legacy. You can get the new book, morethanyobook.com. And you can check us out on Instagram, at Facebook, @Known Legacy. And then if you're watching on YouTube, click the like button and subscribe right there. We'd love to have you continue to subscribe as we have new videos coming out.
Yeah, so introduce to us our guest today.
Yeah, so speaking of tacos, I know that he has something about Texas tacos at a gas station. But ladies and gentlemen, I'm so excited to have on our podcast today Chad Mattson from Unspoken. Yay, we're so glad to have him here. And so, Chad, thanks for being a part. There you are. Thank you so much for being a part of our podcast.
Live studio audience.
Live studio audience there in the back of the cigar shop. So, Chad, we're so glad to have you on. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. I'm concerned because when you were talking about your mother or your wife, you said you do both in regards to kill them both. So I thought that was interesting. But For me, it's not even a comparison. Bacon is far better than brisket.
See, but he lives in
That's
Nashville.
mm-hmm.
So
I know
bacon
I'm not
is.
a Texas boy, but
Oh,
bacon
I
is
know. I've
beautiful.
adopted the Texas ways
Yeah.
since being here for
I
18
think
years.
outside of Texas, bacon wins hands down.
Absolutely.
But inside of Texas,
There is a brisket thing here.
because we know how to do it right.
Yeah, that's true.
And we take pride in it. And it's offset smokers, and wood is sold everywhere for your offset smoker. And,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, and guys make their entire living, their fortune on doing brisket well. And, it's just.
It's pretty
I can
amazing.
tell you this, that I know. I went on tour. I know you guys had Mike Weaver on here from Big Daddy Weave.
Yes.
Yes.
And I went on tour with him several years ago, and it just ruined barbecue for me because they had barbecue almost every single night.
Oh.
And I'm not kidding you. I probably didn't have barbecue for 3 years after that tour.
I could see
you
that.
know,
I understand.
You get
I like-
inundated with
I like-
barbecue.
I almost never order brisket. Like, brisket's okay to me. I always go with the ribs, the sausage, the smoked chicken if it's dark meat. But I almost never order. But California has this thing called tri-tip. And
Yes.
That is amazing.
Tri-tip.
And brisket's okay to me, but, I don't know. Sorry, boys.
Well, this has been a great conversation. Thank you so much. Again, check out knownlegacy.org. We are happy that you listened in, and we'll see you next
Let's
week.
pray. Let's pray. This was enough for today. This was enough to feed the spirit. But no, man, we're so glad to have you on. And, amidst all of this, we did want to talk to you about something. I know that a couple months ago you released a song called More Church Than Church
Yes.
with Walker Hayes, Applebee's guy. I don't know. He probably hates being the Applebee's guy, but that whole
I'm sure
song.
he loves it.
He probably
I'm sure
Dude.
he loves being the Applebee's.
probably
When that check hits every quarter, I guarantee he's like, we're going to Applebee's.
We're going to Applebee's on a date night. Well, dude, so I listened to the song. I love the words, obviously, knowing your heart. Can you share a little bit of where the inspiration of that song came from and just kind of where you guys decided and how you decided to write that song?
So my good friend Tyrus Morgan is a songwriter, and one of my best friends goes to our home group and all sorts of stuff. And so we've been writing songs with him for years. And he happened to hook up with Walker Hayes before he was the Applebee's guy. And he's an amazing writer. I couldn't even begin. Like, he's probably the most talented person I've ever worked with. And he's just amazing. He's just an incredible creative. And so Tyrus had been trying to get us together with him for years. And finally, we got together at Tyrus' studio. And so we were talking about, some different things about our lives and whatnot. And I knew that Walker was in recovery and I was in recovery. And so we had that in common. And Walker radically changed by Jesus. I was radically changed by Jesus. And so, we started talking about our experiences. And I was telling him that back in the day, when we first started, we would go anywhere. I mean, literally anywhere. Oh, your grandmother's in a nursing home? Let's go visit her. And we pray for the nursing home, I remember the reason I met Bill is because we went into SUNY Albany University and set up in the cafeteria without permission, just set up, started playing music, telling people about Jesus. And we met Pastor Duke's daughter, and she introduced me to Bill. And so we would just kind of do whatever we could. Well, we happened to meet a guy that had gotten in a motorcycle accident, and he had one leg, and his name was Frank Dudix. And we met him through a Celebrate Recovery that we had been invited to. And Frank had the ability to kind of get us into some different places in the Northeast, like inpatient and outpatient recovery programs and different things like that. So we would go in, and after being in some AA meetings and some Celebrate Recovery meetings and these inpatient places and going to some prisons and whatnot, there was a common thread that was there. And when you sit in one of those meetings, you basically, when it's your turn, you introduce yourself and you basically tell people the things that you're struggling with. And every time I would leave one of those meetings or one of those opportunities that we had, I'd always tell the guys, man, that felt more church than church. And
Yes.
so it was just one of these kind of phrases that I had going on. And so after getting together with Walker and talking about our lives, and I always say, man, every time I leave one of those meetings, man, it felt more church than church. And he was like, that's the song. And so we started crafting the song, and what does it mean, and that there's this beautiful thing about confession that God calls us to, and in
Yes.
First John it says that if we confess our sins to God, He's faithful and just to forgive us our sins and cleanse us from all unrighteousness. So we know that confession to God produces forgiveness and righteousness, right?
Yes.
But then in James 6, it talks about confessing your sins one to another and praying, and a prayer offered in faith will bring healing. And so we recognize that confession one to another, there's a healing that happens. So we have forgiveness through Jesus, but then there's another step of that transparency and humility, and God opposes the proud, but grace to the humble. And so it's the grace of God as we really share with people what we're really going through, opposed to pretending that everything's all good. So I guess the difference is it was just polarizing between this transparent group of people on this side and then going to church and falling into the same thing as everybody else, pretending that my life is okay. And that one produced a great harvest, and one kept me where I was. So again, this isn't a dog on church. Church is a place we get to come and celebrate God together and encourage each other.
Yeah.
But we have to have those people that we're willing to be transparent with and honest with, because that's where we find healing.
So let me ask this question, because I agree with you. I had the honor of joining a buddy of mine on his 10-year coin for sobriety, and hearing his story and just the journey. And he would say something so similar to what you're talking about, of just the life-giving reality of those AA meetings, knowing that everyone comes from crap.
Yeah.
And there's no games, and they smell out the artificial. They smell it out so quick, and they are constantly inviting you to stop playing the game, stop playing the charades.
Yeah.
And to just be humbled enough to say. And so I guess my question for you, because you kind of dance in both of those worlds, why do you think it's so hard for the church and people in the church to go where AA and recovery meetings seems to go very easily? Why is that? Why is there that barrier there?
Because somebody has to lead the way. I mean, even in my home group, it's like sometimes we'll be all sitting around and it's brutal to try to get us close friends to talk about what's really going on. And all it takes is one person to say, man, I'm struggling with bitterness right now. Something happened. I don't want to be bitter. I'm bitter. And I just need to confess that and bring it up. And it's like that sparks a wave of people being like, you know what, I'm struggling with this. So it really takes somebody to kind of get that ball rolling every time. It's not just, oh, you're with a group of transparent people. Like, somebody's got to get it started. And so, we can be that somebody. I think also, not everything's meant for everyone. And even Proverbs talks about, like, a few close friends. It's like, we're to have a few close friends, because not everybody's safe.
Yeah.
And when you're dealing with these kinds of things, like the Celebrate Recovery and AA and stuff like that, has like such a privacy thing about it, and just a confidentiality that comes with it, just a mutual respect. That's what it is. And we got a lot of chit chatters in the church, and so not everybody's safe. And then too, you have to make room in your life for these deep relationships. It's not just going to happen. And so how many of us just go to church and we come home, we go to church, we come home. We have all these surface relationships, but you really have to make space in your life and make it a priority, and to be able to cultivate those things, and they take time. And sometimes it's trial and error too. That's not the right person. Okay, well, that's not.
Yeah.
So I think those are some of the things, and some of the reasons is, and I think time is probably, we fill our lives so full that we barely have time to go to church, let alone do anything else. And I think it's like the screw tape letters. It's like total hustle from the side of the enemy.
Yeah, keep them busy.
Keep us so busy, yeah.
You know, you make me think. Two of us are pastors. You know, full-time pastors in ministry. What would you say to us as pastors that we could start to move that benchmark a little bit to where the church can be more of a place that shares this beacon of, hey, we want to hear your burden? Like, what are some things, just being even like a church member, that you would say, hey, this would be good if the church did this? And it's not a critical thing. It's how do we do this better?
How do we create the environment?
How do we create the environment?
And the expectation for
yeah,
that.
even from the outside. What would you share with pastors about that specific thing, and say, how do we move this to a place we can be more authentic?
It's creating spaces for, groups of people to gather, and it's really about your leadership and the people that you can empower, because nothing you're going to say from the pulpit, because you have to protect that. I mean, again, being as transparent as possible, without being inappropriate. And of course, everybody thinks, pastors and people on stage have their crap together. So it's nice to remind people that you don't. But it is the specific things that really open up that transparency and permission for others to be transparent, and it's not really appropriate on stage. So it's really trying to empower the men that you have to gather in a small group and cultivate that there, and the women that you have in leadership to cultivate. It's their job, really. It's the church. It's not the pastor. The pastor can speak all day long about it, but there's something that it really has to come from the people. But I could be wrong.
Well, no, that's a good opinion. That's a good perspective.
It is, and I think what you to kind of play off that a little bit deeper is pastors have the public persona, and then they have a private persona. And what I've realized in journeying with some pastors that have flamed out, burned out, and absolutely crashed is typically one of the common threads that they have is they don't have a community that you're talking about for themselves. And so they're always on. They feel like they always need to have the answer. They always need to have the example for the people. And they don't have their own brotherhood, so to speak, where they can just be truly transparent and honest. Yeah. And so I think you're right. Having that balance of what to share that's appropriate within that to encourage that environment. But, man, most pastors, I hold myself accountable too. Do you have a brotherhood of guys that you are just transparent with that maybe don't even go to your church, but they know, they can see it? My brother Kyle sitting next to me 2 weeks ago, he pulled me aside and he goes, I could tell something was off. You seem like you're in a better place. How are you doing? And I could be as transparent with him as I wanted to be because he doesn't go to my church. Yep. It doesn't matter how many church plants I do. It doesn't matter if I even work at the church. Kyle genuinely cares for me. Even if I was a barista at Starbucks, he would still care for me regardless of my vocation or my position. And I think that's a call for guys within leadership within the church. Do you have that community, that brotherhood that's willing to call you out on your crap and that you can proactively share your crap to get the healing that you need? Because the scriptures that you referenced earlier are right on, man. Those are the gifts that God gives us.
And you said earlier, like with the mouth, confession is made unto healing. And I do think that there's so many layers of that. But even when that first guy, again, I've said this before, but I remember someone else was telling me they're like, they're in this group and this guy's like ready to say that he's, and how do I say this? Like he's ready to say that he's going to have
confess your sins.
Yeah, he's like struggling because his secretary is hot, and he's like, he's ready to, do more than her than he probably should, and so he's ready to confess his sin. And then some guy says, I was taking postage stamps from the office, and it sucked the life out of the room. Like, oh yeah, me too. I was writing on letterhead that wasn't mine, And so I think there's something about that first guy that jumps on the grenade.
Right.
They're the boldest and the bravest to go, hey, we've all got these. I'm not saying everyone's got these massive, deep sexual sin issues, but I'm saying some people do.
Some people have gambling issues. Some
gambling
people have pride
addiction issues. Pride.
Right.
And so I think but for someone to jump on that and say, with the mouth, confession is made unto healing, is this idea to go, hey, you know what? I'm hurting, and that every time that I've done that with somebody, it's not been to where the room just sucks out. It's like, you're right, I'm kind of there too.
Right.
So I think it really does take the boldness of one person to say that. And that's even what I liked about the song, was the idea of like, yeah, I resonate with the idea of, sitting in those chairs and and drinking out of styrofoam cups and things like that, and having those, and bringing to that feeling of like, I just want to be real.
Yeah.
Because as our world gets darker, as our world gets seemingly worse, we need strong leaders, like you said. You know, I've been reading through the book of Titus, and this idea of getting leaders in there, and the idea that these leaders needed to be men who were really like husbands of one wives, accountable, ready to do whatever it took. But even the idea of an honest conversation, of doing those works, of like showing the fruits of the Spirit in the midst of this leadership, to go be yourself. Because I can no longer sit here idle and think about guys like Ravi Zacharias, and I know that we've beaten them to death, but I don't want to destroy that. But like all these leaders that have just fallen, and there's got to be a moment when they said, I don't have anybody, and I think being reachable. So
sometimes they don't want anybody though.
True.
That's the other thing. Sometimes you don't want sometimes I don't want the accountability. I don't want it. I just So I think that's the other thing too, is that, you have to want that and see a need for it. And in all honesty, a lot of churches now and worship leaders and even entertainment, people in entertainment, whatever, it's like, are they building their own kingdom? Are they, I don't know. I don't know. I'm just saying that it seems like, that it's tough. It's a tough place. Success is tough.
Yes.
And that's why I'm grateful that I'm not a solo artist. I know some of the guys that I know do it really well, and then some don't. But just to be an island, or have a bunch of yes men. I went to a church where I realized that the leadership was a bunch of yes men for the pastor, and I was like, this isn't right. This doesn't seem quite right. So again, but does that pastor want a bunch of yes men? I mean, for me, like, I don't even know what I want. So I certainly don't want people just agreeing with me for the sense of agreeing. I want to throw out my ideas, and I want people to take a 12-gauge shotgun and just shoot them out of the air like Steve. Whichever idea is standing wins. That's the best one.
Because that's a posture of humility rather than pride. Pride is, my idea is the best idea and we should follow it. Humility is like, man, here's a thought. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
Going back to, I think a practical question is, so you're right. A lot of times we find more comfort in the sin that we know rather than stepping out into the unknown.
Yeah.
So what if you're a guy, and this is a question for the group, how would you encourage a guy to initiate that kind of brotherhood? And then how would you encourage a guy to cultivate that brotherhood to go where it's God ordained to go?
I like that. So say those one more time.
So initiate it. How do you initiate?
How do you
Let's say
initiate
you're finding yourself, man, I am in a bad spot. I am in darkness and I need something.
Yeah.
How do you encourage a guy? What steps would you encourage a guy to initiate that relationship? And then how do you continue to cultivate that relationship for the long haul?
Yeah. Thoughts on that, Chad?
I don't know. I'm not a therapist. I know that I'm in therapy, but I'm not a therapist. I know this, that pain is the number one thing that causes us to change. Unfortunately, I know that for a fact. There's 3 things, and I just can't remember the other 3, but I know that pain is the number one. And so, the hope is to get people to the place of putting things in order so that they don't deal with that massive, pain unnecessarily. But A, it's a work of the Spirit, and B, it's you just have to go for it. You just have to rip the Band-Aid off. I mean, there are times that Bill, I might call Bill and say, Bill, I screwed up. I did this, I did that. I don't want to do it. But I just have to peel the Band-Aid off. It's like, there's no other way.
Yeah.
So I couldn't tell you how to get to that place. I think that's a place where, you want to change and you're going through something and you're willing to suffer, and I think that's one of the consequences of sin, right? Is it does break the fellowship. Like if I sin against my wife, it's not that we don't love each other, but my wife is offended, and it's like we're not facing each other anymore. It's like there's shame and all of these things. So, part of the consequence of sin is just having to deal with that humility, dealing with that, like the shame of and embarrassment and guilt of like saying it. I don't want to say it to Bill. I hate it. It makes my skin crawl, my flesh, So anyway, I'm going to just go round and around here. So I'm going to stop talking. But
no, you're good. That's good.
You just have to do it. You just have to get somebody in your life that feels remotely safe. And even if you get burned, so be it. Don't let it keep you from finding the right person.
Yeah. Well, and I was going to say I agree with you. I think pain is the catalyst. But then you need a preferred future.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times people find the pain, they're familiar with the pain, and they don't see a hope of change.
Yeah.
They don't see a hope of, so they will revert to, well, if I just try harder, if I just give it another, yeoman, pull myself up by my bootstraps, and I can fix this myself. And what Christ has initiated over and over again, Old Testament, New Testament, community is the place, the fertile ground for healing. In community.
Yeah.
And so I agree, pain is the instigator, but I think at some point you need a preferred future, and that's what your song brings forth, is this idea of like, man, there is a preferred future, and the preferred future is where you're known, all of it.
Yeah.
All of it is known, and you're still loved,
Yeah.
and you're still cared for, and you're not disqualified from relationships, you're not disqualified from a marriage, you're not disqualified from a brotherhood, even in spite of having it all known. And so I think, that's why I loved the song, is this, it just painted this preferred future, this preferred picture of like, man, to be in a community where, more church than church, man, that's a place I want to be.
Yeah, and I think even as we're talking, the thing that comes to mind is throwing out the clock. Like, I think so many times we're like, well, after 6 months we should have this together, or we should have this deep relationship, and we should be like, oh, this guy's not really connecting with me yet, not really connecting. And then you're like, no, just if you believe God has called you to connect with that individual, just stay connected, because there's going to be a moment.
Right.
It's not an organized thing. Like, well, every 6 months I'm going to have a problem. It's like, we're there ready. So those 2 o'clock in the morning phone calls can happen.
Right.
And you're like, no, I'm supposed to be here for this guy. I know that you're journeying with another guy who and he's rejected you many times, but he's like, but I know that you're going, there's going to be a day that he's going to go, okay, I've hit rock bottom completely, and this guy seems to keep rising to the surface. So I think there's another side for the initiator in this conversation. Is like, I'm doing that, and this guy's not responding. It's like, keep doing it, because there's no timeline.
Do not grow weary in doing good.
Yes, that we just need to keep on going to pour into these individuals, and we're like, well, I'm not seeing anything. Great, keep doing it. Keep doing it. Keep pouring into these individuals, building these relationships, so that because it will happen someday,
right,
that they'll be aware of their hopelessness. And even if it's not, keep doing it.
Right.
So I think that's a huge thing in building those relationships. I love that. I love that idea of the heart pouring out. So that's been good.
One thought on that.
Go for it.
One thought I have on that is, a lot of times when God's kind of given us somebody to connect with or whatever, and we don't see that change, we get frustrated, and there's kind of disillusionment and things like that. And you have to just recognize that this is a life of the work of the Spirit of God. Like, it's not our job to bring people in, into this, the right space. Like, that's the Holy Spirit's job. Our job is to create opportunities, and trying to make room for people in our lives, so that the Holy Spirit can do that work. But that's where it gets frustrating, is, well, man, so it's like, I guess what I'm trying to say is, don't take it on your own shoulders to think that like you're going to bring something. Just know that God has you in a place with somebody, and just plug away. Don't give too much. Don't give more than you should to it. Let God do the work. You know what I mean? I just think about like our kids or something, if they fall away from the Lord or whatever, and it's like we spend all the time we can. It's like the prodigal son's dad didn't chase him.
Right.
He waited for him with his arms open wide, but it's like, because it's like we get desperate, especially when it's our own family and the people that we love. Like, we get desperate, and that desperation causes us to kind of live in fear, and that fear, and that kind of ends up pushing people away. I mean, that's how that happened to me in my life. And
Yeah.
it was when my mother read Romans 2 and the kindness of God brings repentance, that's when everything shifted. She
Yeah.
shifted,
Yeah.
you know, and the love of God flooded my life within months, and my whole life turned around. Um,
Yeah.
so either way, it's again, it's a work of God, and it's like an addict. You can't make somebody want to get sober. They
Right.
have to come
Yeah.
to it on their own.
Like, it is a work of the Spirit, and that's why us walking in the fellowship of the Spirit is so important as we
Yeah,
continue to
absolutely.
seek and discern where the Spirit is moving and be willing to ask. And again, his warning, I think, should be heeded by all of, like, we think if we create the urgency and we create the push,
Yeah.
that somehow, and all it does is create walls and defensiveness,
Yeah.
and they have to justify their behavior, and we are really good at justifying our behavior to continue to do what we do.
And just to give credit to this, part of why I want to chat on for this specific topic is, he does a weekly Bible study on Wednesdays. If anybody's interested, we can give you the contact info for that Bible study, because it's just an open Bible study. But in that study, Chad creates a culture of, listen, we're all the same. We're a mess, and so we got a lot of people in there. We've got a lot of serious issues. I mean, people have lost their children, lost their spouses, and so they're walking through some dark stuff. And Chad allows those moments to happen by stopping and praying with those individuals in the middle of the study.
Right.
So it's not like, oh, wait, we got to get through this. Very authentic, and like, hey, we're all hurting. We've all got these things, and that's part of why I wanted to get him on. And Chad, I love that. I love your heart with that. And that's why I wanted to get you on here, because I knew when I heard that song, this was real.
Yep.
It wasn't formulated so that it was like, oh, this would be a good song, which I believe it is, but it's more, God, you're being authentic in this. And so, man, any final thoughts to those individuals?
Well, I think the one line that I like a lot, and just it's the pivot line in the chorus, but says. I'm trying to think of the one edgy line that's an alternate line of the chorus, but can't judge because we know we're all messed up.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think that's the other thing, is that we cannot self-righteousness and all. And I've got some, my wife is with my wife some, and I mean there's different places where it pokes its head, but it is that humility and that understanding that we can't judge because we know we're all messed up.
Yeah.
And so the basic point is just that, it's recognizing that we're all hurting. Like you said, I was having a conversation with my son. I yelled at him, and my nephew was in town. He's not a believer, and I'm just going after my son. Like, I lost it on him. He was being disrespectful to his mother. There was a bunch of stuff, and I don't have any filter at all. Like, it don't matter if I'm in Walmart. Like, if it's the time to have it, it's going to happen. I'm not saying it's good. I'm saying that's just me.
Yeah, I know.
And I sat there, and in the end, like, we cried and we, all this different stuff. But I sat there and I just was weeping because I was realizing that, like, my son is hurting, and in his way. I'm hurting. My wife's hurting. My daughter's hurting. It's like all of us are hurting, and part of me, part of my sadness and sorrow there was that sometimes I feel powerless to change it. Like, I don't know how to help myself. How do I know how to help my kids or my wife?
Yeah.
And I think one of the big things is to get in that place for yourself is one of those ways that we can help others. But everybody's hurting. That's a fact. And so if we're all on that same level, and again, that's that Beatitudes, and this gradual progression in the Beatitudes, and it's meekness and humility is like one of the main things. But I had one other thought, and what was it? It was special. We're all hurting, sitting on the couch. No, I lost it. Don't do drugs, kids.
Well, if you think about it, just bring it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This has been a great conversation. I really appreciate your transparency and authenticity there. And again, I think it sets the bar for Bill and I as we continue to have the conversations of like, we're really good about things that we've overcome in the past.
Yeah.
But we're really difficult for us to talk about the things we're struggling with today.
Like right now.
And that's the invitation that I'm hearing over and over again is like, man, we're all struggling with something.
Yeah.
Let's be honest with it with someone.
But I think as quickly as like, okay, even like with that, like I think the example of you, okay, I wounded my kid, but then as quickly as that, you move back to forgive me.
Right.
And I think I'm sorry is such a powerful word that we don't use as much as we need to.
Yeah.
And so I think there's beauty in the fact that, okay, we stopped right there. We cried. We're on the couch. We were authentic and real.
12 steps.
And I think that's beautiful. It's beautiful. So, dude, thank you for sharing that. Sorry that Ozzy's in the background barking his head off. But, hey, we got a couple of...
Sorry about that.
No, you're
okay.
good. You're okay. You're okay. But I know as we finish up, there are those things we do all the time called our Fast Five. And we'd love you to go through them. So are you ready for those, my friend?
Yeah.
Awesome.
So cheesy drive time radio show
the,
right
the
there.
cheese is there. That's why we did it, Kyle.
Today
Grateful
on
for
WXYZ.
WXYZ. WKPR in Cincinnati. So
The turkey drop.
KRP.
WKRP. Sorry, it was a little early. Turkey drop. The WKRP turkey drop. Sorry if you don't know that, then you're probably under 50. So there you go. Hey,
I don't even know that.
I know you don't. Oh man,
We'll send you the link later. It's
awesome.
TV gold right there.
TV amazingness. So, okay, number one, most interesting place that you have been.
I would say the Faroe Islands.
Where's that?
It's basically Norway's Arctic Hawaii.
Oh wow, that's kind of cool.
So we went to Europe this fall, or this summer, this spring. I don't even know what season.
Yeah.
We went to Europe recently, and we were able to go to the Faroe Islands. So it's kind of between like Norway and England and Iceland. And then it's like right in the middle of the ocean, and it's insane. It's absolutely insane. There's no trees on it. They have more sheep than people.
Wow.
Wow.
And it's absolutely incredible. And of course, when we were there, it was, it was light 24 hours. It kind of got a little bit dark at 2 in the morning or 3 in the morning. But so that was kind of special. And I would say that's the most interesting place I've been.
Wow. Wow, nice. If you could have one haircut forever, what would you have?
That Jim Carrey haircut in Dumb and Dumber?
Yes. Yes.
Golden.
That's awesome. Okay, there's so many things I wanted to say lines, but I'll let that go. That's awesome. Favorite thing to do with your family?
Favorite thing to do right now, it's favorite thing to do with my wife is to play pickleball.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And then I like going on, the walks or bike rides. It seems like that's fun. I obviously like going out to dinner with them.
Yeah.
Or just like hanging around. We have this, just the kids will lay on top of me and I'll massage their back or get my wife. It's whatever it is. But
that's awesome.
Yeah. So, and then, we love gathering with our community of people and doing all that as well. But then when it really comes down to it, they're with their friends. We're with ours, and we're not actually together, but we're sort of together.
But still community connecting. That's cool. That's cool. Okay. Favorite childhood memory?
Favorite childhood memory? Well, I know this. Like the first thing that comes to my mind is now we weren't allowed to have video games when I was a kid. Now it was mainly like my mom didn't want to deal with the cords on the floor. And we would never put them away. But my parents were, I wouldn't say they were really strict, but like we were only allowed 1.5 hour of TV during the week. And for me, it was Monday night, 8 o'clock, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. So like we could watch TV on the weekends, but not during the week. Mom didn't want to argue with how much TV, with the homework, blah, 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 so we just weren't allowed to watch it. So my parents one year got us a what's it called, a CD-ROM for Christmas. And you're talking freaking Oregon Trail. Like at the time Sonic is out, you have Oregon Trail. But we were pumped because we thought we were going to be able to play video games, which we did, but we didn't really ever use it. So that Christmas thing was fun. And then we went on some cool trips, went to the Grand Canyon and did some different stuff. But my dad was at every sports game, all of us every time. He worked a lot, but he was always at the games. We had a summer camp in like on a lake, and so that was always fun. So that, I have a lot of good memories.
Good, that's awesome. And dying of dysentery
over
in the Oregon Trail
and over again.
Come on,
yeah, not on the camping trip, just on the game.
Then his dad's like, "We're gonna go to Grand Canyon." I don't want to die of dysentery.
I know how this ends.
This is terrible. Awesome. Okay, one more thing. One thing on your bucket list that you want to accomplish before you die.
I want to, like, there's a spiritual side of something maybe where I'm like, oh, I should probably want to do something for Jesus.
Yeah, but I just want to know, like, bucket list.
I would love to win a Grammy. That would be pretty cool.
That's
awesome.
awesome.
That'd be awesome.
Just because it would be a miracle, it's like it's just another testament to the goodness of God and how crazy stuff.
Well, go for it.
I don't know. No, I don't know. I pray that God gives me new dreams and new visions for the future. Sometimes it's really difficult for me to live in a space where I'm dreaming big. Because if I'm dreaming big, then I'm not content, and if I'm content, I'm usually not dreaming big. So I want to be, So for me, I don't quite know. I over spiritualize everything, and I kind of, beat it to death. And so I'm just praying that God would help me be able to dream big while being content. And but right now, I'm just trying to be content and keeping the dreaming big off to the side.
Yeah, I love the tension there.
It's good. It's good stuff, man. Yeah. Good stuff. Well, dude, thank you so much for being on today. We're so grateful to have you on. Thank you for sharing this. And if you have a chance, if you're listening, we'll put the link in the bottom for More Church Than Church, probably from Spotify or something like that. But check that out. And, man, so glad to have you on. Thank you for sharing your perspective of that and what that meant and the value of authenticity.
Yeah.
Being real.
And send some of that cool weather down our way, man. We are frying down here in Texas right now.
I know. Do you have a fire going right now?
No. I haven't had a fire in months. Sometimes I'll come out here and be like, oh, I'm going to get a fire in the summer. And I'm like, it's instant sweat fest. So it's been crazy hot. But this week has been more like in the 80s, and it's been like in the high 90s. And it was crazy hot.
It started to cool off here when cool, it's like 97 as a high.
Yes, it's miserable.
So
anyways, man, it was great.
That's why we're in Nashville with trees and green and
yes.
not in Texas.
Hey, man, it's been a great conversation. Thank you so much for your time. Thanks for putting that song out, and hopefully it's a light to people like it has been to Bill and I. And, just prayer for success for you, and maybe that Grammy will come. Yeah, check out Chad's band Unspoken at unspokenmusic.com. They're also on tour right now. They might be in an area close to you, so check them out. I know they're coming to Texas on October 15th. Whoop, whoop. So check that out there if you want to be a part of that. And, Chad, so glad to have you on. Thank you so much, man. Appreciate you. Love you. And man, hey, when you're in Texas, we'll buy you some brisket. How does that sound? That sounds like a plan.
I'll take. If you give me the best brisket you know of, I'll take it.
Sounds like a plan.
God bless you guys.
Thanks a lot, guys, for listening and watching. And you can check us out at knownlegacy.org.
Yep.
And you can check out the book More Than You at morethanYouBook.com, which I think speaks a little bit into what Chad was talking about trying to figure out that dream and the balance and things like that, where you're trying to do something big, but you're like, is it of the Lord?
Yep.
And so if you're bored in church, that book is for you.
Yep.
Thank you guys for listening and watching. And anything else, Travis?
God bless you guys. Have a good week.
Have a good week.
Thanks for listening to the Known Legacy Podcast. We'd love to hear from you. So email us your questions or comments to info@knownlegacy.org.